So TSM is sticking with the double Zeus Uranus lineup, whereas TCL made a slight adjustment for the map choice they made, in that the Zeus players switched to Ra. So Ra is able to get the early farms up and does pretty good on Oasis because it's a generally low hunt, low food map, so Ra transitioning to farms early works out pretty well. And then for the other TCL players, being Uranus, you can turbo spam without needing to worry about the amount of food on the map, so I understand the map pick. Alright, so we've got TCL to the bottom of the screen, green, teal, and purple, whereas TSM is going to be to the top again with red, blue, and yellow. Gotta pause while Sky fixes his lag. One thing I want to see map-wise, if I could remove Fog of War and check, is how the center of the map plays out. Sometimes you can have a giant oasis, but I think with 3 versus 3, typically you'll have like 4 mini circles. So there'll be pathways down the middle, both ways, so see what the middle looks like as they scout more. But the big concern here is Centaur raids from the Zeus players on this map. Especially against Atlantean players, they can be extremely strong, so we'll probably see a decent bit of walling off. Another thing to note is for green and yellow, their third town centers are extremely close to each other. And then extremely close to them as well. So sometimes you get a map like this where all the players will be in the bottom corner and their town centers will be right nearby, and it results in turtling. This version of the map almost looks like to be the complete opposite, in that the players on the outside are extremely close to each other, and then their third town centers are both extremely close to each other as well. Build a barracks in the middle here and you've got line of sight of both town centers, so I think we'll see a bunch of action. I think the big question early on is if either Zeus player for TSM goes Centaur raiding, and then if so, how TCL deals with it, walling off effectively or not. So I got the Raw player on the outside. So I almost prefer the Raw be back in the middle so he could boom, and so purple would be closer to blue in order to apply pressure as Uranus, but at the same time Raw is a slightly stronger defender with his upgraded towers automatically, so it could work out in TCL's favor. Especially if blue were to go Centaurs, the Egyptian player can deal with them much more effectively with priests. So I'm looking around the map and they can find their giraffes and gazelles, then that's a decent hunt for this map. Looks like all players had a decent number of starting zebra, and blue's got his hunt nearby, so that's huge for blue. He probably even, won hunting dogs with that much hunt, so. It's nice to have for the blue Zeus player. Yellow, on the other hand, is having to go with his chickens because he's yet to find his secondary hunt. Green's also having to go for sheep already too because he didn't have any secondary hunt. His zebras are all the way off there, well out of initial starting site. And I've still yet to see Green's gazelle and giraffes either. Purple found his at least, and his zebras, so. gets the randomness of maps in play. And it can make a big difference, especially if you're somebody like Blue who had both his zebra and his giraffes and gazelles pretty much in starting line of sight. He doesn't have to travel very far, and then that's a lot of hunt. Meanwhile, a player like Green's having to kill 5 or 6 sheep early on to sustain his food. Green has his oracles here. I hope he doesn't use Valor on him. Because if he does, he's pretty much just creating 3 units that are going to be useless at defending against potential Centaur raids. And he's not going to do any damage. Yellow's gold is safely in the back and then safely within town center range. So, not a fan of the Valor on the Oracle strategy unless you have like a specific tower that's defending a forward gold that you plan to knock your opponent off of. Like if you do it in a specific situation, it's okay, but just to blindly do it, especially back near your own base, is questionable. Although the reason he did do it back near his base is so he got the citizen hero as well. Valor will convert 3 military units to heroes and then 1 villager to a hero as well. And a villager hero does have a slightly higher production gathering rate, so. Okay, so just going back to the map structure, we've got 2 large islands instead of the 4 smaller ones, so that results in just this 1 wall, which Teal's very wisely walling off right away, so I like that. Teal's also walling off there. Yep, the centaurs are coming out from Blue. But if Teal finishes walling off, then the cents are going to do pretty much nothing. Green trying to apply pressure, but I wouldn't be too worried if I were Yellow. And then Red's coming over to help immediately as well, so they'll be able to fend that off pretty easily. Bit of miss micro there on the centaur that could get picked off. Yep, it's gonna get trapped. And it looks like Yellow's trying to go sense too, so losing 1 for free like that is not the best start. Looks like Teal's gonna be a little slow finishing his walling, so Blue's gonna get the 2 upgraded sense through, and then also pick off the walling villager. Bit of a misplay by Teal there. You can build a wall in pre-classical, and then as Egyptian you'll usually have the gold for it, so Teal could have walled off a bit earlier there, anticipating the centaur raids. Now he's going to have these 2 cents running wild and harassing purple as well, and they've already gotten 2 villager kills that I saw. I'm looking at purple and trying to find where he's trying to pressure. Looks like he's going double Terma production, but he's yet to really attack anyone, so. Red meanwhile is pushed off Green here for Yellow, so. So Yellow went for the upgraded sense too, so I'd expect to see some more centaur production. There we go. Teal's still. Doesn't look like Blue's gonna rally anymore. Centaur's over, which is smart. He got the 2, they're upgraded. He's gotten more than a few villager kills. At this point, Teal should have fully walled off, so if Blue kept making centaurs, he'd just be wasting them because you're not gonna get through walls with them. So Blue wisely backed off and it took a 2nd town center instead. Meanwhile, he's still doing decent damage with these 2, so getting the upgrade was well worth it. Green would be a bit more vulnerable if Yellow masses sense, because Green hasn't walled off at all, so. little confused by this wall by purple. It's been much more effective for green to have just completely walled off their side than for purple to spend the time to build a partial wall. Got some trades here, but with green going so aggressive, I think red got some decent damage done to green early on, and then purple hasn't helped too much, so red's got the advantage over green at the moment. The other thing with fighting 2 versus 2 as a Greek, you get the Atlantean partner of yours to kill all the heroes much more quickly, so the centaurs just become even more effective. Normally if you're Greek, if you're going Cents, you don't have that many human units early on to back you up and kill the opposing heroes. However, with an Atlantean partner, they're going to have tons of units early on that counter your opponent's heroes and can basically one-shot the opponent's heroes and clear them out pretty quickly. Which then makes the Cents just have free reign without heroes to counter them. Teal pushing out a bit here, but it's too late. Blue's gonna take that town center easily. Yes, we do have the fast heroic coming out of the raw player, which is why he hasn't done anything yet. Bit of a micro there, leaving the units in range when the town center got built. Loses the priest for nothing. So red and yellow have nicely taken map control, especially since the town centers were, I'd say, slightly closer to green, so having this control is nice. I'd like to see them fortify their position even further by taking one of the town centers, especially against an Atlantean opponent, which is Terma. If you take the town center, throw up a couple military buildings to sort of create a mini wall, you can kind of fortify your position quite nicely. Also extremely surprised to not see a wall here. You've got 2 Greek players who could wall it much easily, or they're right on cue. Second I say it, blue builds the wall, so you just don't want to leave that open and give Terma free reign to raid the middle of your base when building one simple wall there shuts off the middle completely and gives you complete security, so they realize that, and blue's building the wall now. Plus they're pressuring on this side as well, so it's not like purple or green can roam off freely and raid. They're busy defending. Well, purple's gonna try, but that's a mistake, especially with non-hero or all your heroes pulled back. These centaurs are just gonna hunt these units down and kill them. I like the walling from yellow as well. He's done a decent job eliminating. Looks like red got caught there a bit, with just pure Terma. Pure Terma against a counter Terma army with even just 1 Promethean to tank the damage is gonna trade extremely effectively, as the Promethean's gonna take very little damage, whereas the Terma firing directly on the Terma are gonna get the counter bonus and do a lot more. Purple hasn't lost too many units yet, but he's still getting chased down, so eventually when he stops, if he even tries to do damage, he's just gonna get picked off. I don't think that's really the most effective raid. Looks like he might have killed blue here, and is now pressuring down the middle, which I like. Especially if you can find red's gold there, out in the open. He's going right for it, so. He also lost yellow's chase, so. Does he have sight of the town center? Where'd the rest of his army go? Ah, if he just rallies these units there. They spot the town center, but it's going to be too late, especially with a hero villager building. Some decent damage there. Especially since Red had been in one town center for so long, it makes losing villagers like that even more costly, as opposed to if you killed villagers of blue who'd been on 3 town centers for quite a bit of time. So Raw player went Bast instead of Sekhmet, so he's not going to have the cheaper farms, so as a result he transitions to farms much later. Curious about that choice, if he wants to save the Eclipse for like a Titan later on. Say, casting Rain at this point as the Raw player, Blue's got twice as many farms, so I believe it's a 200% bonus for the Raw player and then 100% for everybody else, but with twice as many farms, Blue should still come out even. So a bit of a late Rain. Blue's also fortified a forward position, so he's going to have the town center advantage as the game goes on. One thing to note right now is just the scores. You can see purple's pretty much even with all the TSM players, however green and tail are pretty significantly behind, so as the game moves on, TCL is going to be needing to make some plays to come back because they are pretty far behind at this point. These raids are actually somewhat effective, but they're also going to be losing quite a few units themselves. Looks like yellow doesn't have too strong of a human army with the cavalry, so just sense leaves them a little vulnerable, especially if the landing players convert some heroes. Not getting that wall up is coming back to haunt TSM a little bit. These raids probably would have been a lot less effective if this had been walled off earlier on, and they tried to get the wall up again, but TCL is just attacking the middle at this point. Does look like TSM is going to start to fortify this position, which if they fortify it, they can then get the town centers up and have the advantage there, and then blue also has the advantage to the top as well. Alright, so teal is going fast mythic. I kinda assumed that because he hadn't made any army after going heroic. All he really did was harass with some myth units a bit. I kinda question the fact that I bet he's going for a fast Titan. That's all I can really think of. Horus isn't really going to give you too much. He's going to give you like Tornado and upgraded Spearmen, but against a Zeus player, the upgraded Spearmen aren't going to be that important. I do like the Sphinx harass, especially against an Elanian opponent. That can be extremely annoying. And he's going to pick off a villager, yeah, so. don't really know if I like that tornado. If he kills the town center... decent damage. Both to the... killed quite a few villagers and killed the town center down, but... I don't know if you want your mythic god power just killing 10 villagers or so. Okay, so the ceasefire was used by yellow to get this town center up and fortify this position. Especially since green had taken control and purple's really causing a lot of havoc in the middle here. Purple is the first Atlantean player up, so he's going to have quite a bit of advantage, especially if he can get destroyers out. Which he's already got going, so... is red advancing? Yeah, red's at least up to counter it, otherwise red would be in some serious trouble. Surprised green didn't decide to take this town center during ceasefire. He's still playing on one town center himself, which is why his score is so much lower than everybody else. Looks like Teal's planning to mass myth units. Not sure if that's the most effective strategy against a Greek player who's gonna boom. Still, really good harassment by TCL. They still are completely controlling the middle and preventing the wall up, or the complete wall up, so that's giving them free reign to raid all of the gold of red and yellow. So blue's been wise and kept all of his gold forward, which is saving him from all of this harass, otherwise blue'd be in a bit of trouble too. Here we go, Eclipse push by Teal, but... I mean, you're gonna be able to kill most of the army, but... he's got a siege workshop, but I don't see anything getting produced, so... with a fortress and a fortified town center here, who's just gonna kill this off? I mean, Teal's gonna do some decent damage. Sphinx are killing the fortress, but with blue being mythic, once he gets out, yeah, there are heroes there. He's just gonna be able to kill all the myth units now. There's no siege, or the siege follow-up from Teal is way too late. Blue's got a mythic as well. He's gonna get the upgrades. I don't think Teal's gonna be able to push back there, so it's really gonna come down to his teammates causing havoc in the middle. Red continues to get harassed on his gold quite a bit. TSM's fortified this position down here though, so TSM's gonna have a 2-town center advantage in that they took the 3rd town centers of Teal and green. The only real advantage is the potential to disrupt the trade of their opponents, which in team games is extremely important, but that's really their only hope at this point. It does look like Teal at least has decent trade going himself, which is especially important as a raw player. With the upgraded mercenaries, I don't think you can check if they're upgraded or not. The upgrade makes them last longer, but Teal could fight off being down a town center if he spams mercenaries enough, but I don't know if his economy is quite that strong. Granted how strong of a boom blues had all game. Especially if the upgrades start kicking in, which they haven't yet, but try to find, yeah. Don't see anything researching yet, but he's got the 4 armories ready. So Underworld by yellow onto purple's back town center, but a counter vortex from purple, which, especially with the 4 birds there and no range hero for yellow, I think purple will be able to defend this off pretty easily. Only thing that worries me for purple is the siege, but he's got a few melee units back here. I want to have the birds focusing the units and not the siege. Let's see, where's purple's production? Does he have much production left back here? Because yellow can reinforce by sending more units through the underworld, whereas purple has most of his production forward here, so without the use of a second vortex, he's going to have trouble getting back here again if yellow keeps sending units through the underworld. I'd like to see green go back and help rather than pushing forward, because especially with not that much siege, I think it's going to take green a while to do any real damage here. Meanwhile, yellow. So, there we go. Second vortex from purple, since he reproduced all his units up front here. If green can take dinner and purple can fight this off, I actually like this trade a lot for TCL. Red's busy pushing purple back here in the middle, whereas green's pushing yellow off a town center, so taking the town center control is the much better trade than losing middle here. Blue, meanwhile, he's gotten the upgrades, so he's got heroic upgrades at the moment. Doesn't look like he started mythic. He's also got his Titan halfway complete, so Teal looks to be in trouble, especially considering he doesn't even have fortified town centers, and we're 22 minutes in, so purple wasn't able to fend off the underworld. Meanwhile, his production was hit by red, so that's going to be game. So what happened down here is purple had all his production built forward, whereas yellow probably built the underworld right near all of his production. Okay, yeah, so yellow had the underworld here, so yellow just kept making units and sending them through the underworld, which allowed him to keep fighting continuously down here, whereas purple's units were coming out here. So purple used 2 vortexes to come back here and defend, but yellow was able to fend him off and just keep reinforcing, and then meanwhile red's pushing forward here, killing purple's reinforcements as they spawn eventually. Whereas green really didn't have that strong of an army, and ended up trying to push forward here, killed the town center, but then the god power sent him back, so I think green's biggest weakness is he was on 1 town center for pretty much the entire game. He took his second extremely late. Teal would have also been dead with a matter of time. Mercenaries are strong and can help you defend, especially as Ra for a while, but once your opponent gets a Titan out, the mercenaries aren't going to prevent the Titan from taking down the town center and stopping the mercenary production. Other thing Teal did, that he kind of went for a wacky fast mythic strategy, just hoping Eclipse Avengers would kill blue, which isn't going to work against a booming 4 town center Zeus player. You've really got to just fast heroic, get your farms early, and then pressure with chariot archers, but blue was prepared and took too much map control.